Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Wednesday. It is October the 21st. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And you could have seen this a couple different ways. There is a two-tiered channel, I believe, working through here, and we got a break here, move to a new low, and then we tried to correct, and then we got another leg, and I believe they're pretty close, just eyeballing it. I never measured it, but I would guess they are pretty much two measured legs down to a new low. And you can see that it's actually two perfectly measured legs down to a new low, and then it bounces. But you could also find, if you saw the range, which is basically the better play. Well, I wouldn't say the better play, they're about the same. um, you can see the first tier of it there, and if you want to know where it's headed, you just make the measured move and look, it goes to the tick to the other end. And people always ask me how I find the highs and lows. I usually find where you get the most touches, but also using the closes. And you can see across here we got the most touches. We were kind of below and above right there, and then we're a little bit above and below, and then touch right there. You get the most touches, and notice it's touching it from underneath here. So nice little trick there when you head lower on a range kind of deal. That's what you're looking for. As far generally when it breaks lower or higher, a measured move. And so there were a couple of different ways to see that. You got the channel working down, you got the break, and two legs to a new low. It looked like we were going to rally out of here. It really helped to use your shorter term trend lines today. They all worked out pretty good, and this is actually supposed to be a long here. They all worked out really nicely. Um, you got one moving up, you got a break, a new high, then you got one working down, a break, a new low, you got one working up, break, new high, and then I got you in a 2 o'clock. But notice this one working down, you got the break, new low, correction, break, new high. And so they all worked out pretty well. Um, so pretty good day overall, some nice trends down. And really all you need is enough room. Even if this would have been the high and low of the range here, it's still over 10 points. All you need is a trend from one side to the other, and you usually look to try to sell across the top, buy across the bottom, and then follow your trend, your trend rules in between. If the range gets real tight like this one, and there was another one in here, there's one right in here. If they get real tight like that, and like this one, unless you get a trap or some kind of special setup, you're probably better off just to stay out. But it gets a little harder to trade like that. But let's back out and get a little better look at it and go over the trades. The first one I saw was here. Notice that we're working up pretty strongly. We got a break and a new high and kind of a double top there, but we tried to go lower once. We pulled back. We tried to go lower again. And it's just kind of stacking up there. Look how those are all, stacking up. There's three of them. There's pretty much stems. So I don't think I would go short into that, especially with those stems on the low. Um, if you'd have went short on the second entry there, I believe it would have worked. But I don't think it's very wise to go short there. But then notice what happens. We try to go lower once, we try to go lower twice. It's obvious this is kind of a trading range now, and this gives you a chance to get in a little bit low. I will clarify that if using a stop, there's not enough room to get out before you get back up here at the highs. You got to use a limit order and get a little bit better entry. Um, but there was enough to get out on this one regardless, so you're okay just going long with a stop there. And then it just kind of keeps going sideways. You get another little failed double move lower, but by the time you can get in this one, you're right there at the highs. And then finally, you get a chance to short it with a little small bar way up here. It's a little doji, and it breaks higher, kind of a little trap. And so that's not a perfect signal bar, but the fact that, you got a known range here, this is where you would enter to try to get back to the lows again if it turns down. So I'm okay just going short on the stop. And turns out you get lucky on this one. It just keeps on dropping. There's a little breakout pullback short there, but that ends up, it goes higher, but it can't go lower. I don't recommend you're getting away from the EMA. I don't recommend going short there. I think it might have, no, it would have been a failure if you tried to get in there, but I don't recommend that trade anyway. So if you were going to enter, you'd have to do it here, and it didn't tick higher. There's not a real good setup. The fact that this one went higher and turned down off the trend line but couldn't go lower, getting away from the EMA. Generally, you're going to get a failed break and a reversal, and out of this stuff, at least to come back to test this before it goes lower. And so, if anything, I would have been thinking long here, but I don't think you can go long here. You don't really get you get a little bit of a close outside. This line looks like it should be tighter. So you do get a close outside. It's not very strong one, and then a new low, and then it reverses. I would rather see you go long here, but I don't even like going long there. I think you're better off just to wait and see what happens. And then it rallies up. I don't have my trend line on there. Put it on there for people. And it turns down right here, and it comes up a little lower right there. It's tempting to go short right there, but there's no break and retest to the high, and we're not back to the high. So even though you got a bearish bar, you just kind of got to wait. But then it goes lower and pulls back, and it tests that support, and look how it closes below it. It kind of acts as resistance. So when prices turn down there, I would have liked this better if it would have broke higher and then turned down. But it comes right off that trend line, and it goes lower. So I like going short there. Really, the better play would probably wait for this bigger red bar to finish, and when you get a break below it, put your limit order back up here where you would have entered on a stop below this bar, and it would have come back and filled it most likely, and then it turns down again. But now you got a failed second entry long, a confirmation of this shorter term trend line, a big bearish bar. That's the best entry spot of all. And look at it go, and you can ride that down. Then it comes back. I don't like this one for a signal bar. I do like this one better. It's only a tick off the low. It's a first entry, but it's basically a double top there too. It's right off the EMA, and we're moving lower, so we're probably headed to at least test this low and maybe even this low. And it drops down. You do get a little. That's a little bit congestive looking, so it did come back and test that, and the trend line still holds. That's a big bearish bar. The reason I didn't circle that one, it probably could be green, but you're getting so close to these lows right here that there's a chance it breaks lower here and bounces. And we hadn't been back to the EMA since here. We couldn't get back there. We're not back there. So it could probably be a little, if you want to be a little bit aggressive, it's a fairly big bar too. So I will make it green just in case. Maybe your setup is a little bit different on your chart. So in that case, it might have been a good setup. If there's enough room to get out before here, then, and it looks like there is. Let me just check it and see. I'm curious now. 2175. Yep, there's just enough to get out before you get to that low. So yeah, I'm okay with that and being green. I don't think you want to enter any of these others because you're getting too close down here and it's starting to go sideways, and we're just not breaking very low. Even if you'd have went short on that one, it would have worked, but I just didn't like that one. And there's probably still enough to get out. They're definitely below. There's plenty to get out for here, but you're probably going to be more worried about here because that's where you got the most touches and bounces. And there's just not enough room in there. You can see, well, there is on this one, but not this one. So again, you might have considered that one, especially when it broke higher and turned down there, and it's almost like two legs back, and it's pretty close to the EMA. So I tell you what, I'm going to give that a green one too. But again, it's a little aggressive, and newer people should just skip those and watch it until they learn. And it was tempting to go long right here, I'll be honest with you, but we tested these lows right here. But there's still a lot of stem here, so we could have kept going lower. We could have got another leg. I think you're better off to wait on a better entry. You get a second entry long here, but it's right into the EMA. This trend line was not real obvious here either going up until you got a little more price action. So you couldn't tell if you had a break. If you drew it real steep here, it would have looked like a break, and a new high doesn't have to go with a few ticks. So I just wasn't real sure about this one. I think you're better off to wait. There's a lot of resistance right there too. It does pull back and test it here, but by the time you get a good signal bar, it's way up here, and you got to put your stop down here below this one. So the only thing I like doing is waiting on it to break here and putting a limit order back here where you would have, or maybe even a tick further back, and it would have come back and filled you. But then it turns back up and goes higher again, and so I like that one for right there. Uh, so you could, there's really two possible trades there. This one is a real green one. I'll go ahead and put it on there. But if you're going to enter that one, you got to do it the way I said, talked about there. You can't use a stop right there. You could treat that like a failed second entry short too, but I think you're better off to wait on this little setup here. But if you did enter here, you could add on here or whatever. So it was obvious we were going on a little higher once we got here. And I don't have this trend line quite where it goes there. And then we run up, we hit that trend line. And again, normally in a downtrend, you would not be trading both ways, but this is more range-like. And to be honest with you, I was trading the range in the shorter term trend lines because you're not getting a lot of stuff off this. When it turned down right here off that line, you might have considered going short there. And if you had a really good signal bar, I'm okay with going short there. But I wanted to wait and see if you got a better setup, and you just never got another break higher. You could kind of consider that a correct break through the EMA and pull back to test it and then turn down. So, but then you're right into that support resistance kind of where you're that thin area right there where you're at getting resistance before, and now it kind of is acting as support. I'm gonna draw that on there just for the people that aren't used to seeing that. See how that's kind of the middle ground there. When you're below it, it's acting as resistance, and when you're above it, it's acting as support. Probably more like that right there. So it's really dangerous with it bouncing off that to try to get in. So it's similar to a breakout pullback short. So I don't think you want to go short right there for that reason. But then it comes down here. Now you got a double bottom down here, and it bounces right here. You had your close outside in a new low, and then it turns up, and it actually breaks lower here and goes out the top of that bar all in one move. So just go long right there. You got enough room to get out before you even get to the EMA. But notice, let me show this to you. Notice how it pushes right through the EMA. There's no resistance there. Pulls back, tests the EMA, and goes higher. You want to go long right there. That's a reversal type pattern. Notice what happened over here. It shoots right through the EMA. You don't really get any resistance there. Pulls back. It actually gets back through, but it still ends up turning prices back down and coming back and testing it there. That's a reversal pattern. That's what they look like. Notice how once you're trending pretty good, it never goes back. We're even having a hard time getting back to the EMA here, but then it comes back and it gets a little resistance. When it shoots right through and then pulls back and tests it and turns back again, that's a sign that something's changed. And so you got that signal here and you got it over here for a reversal. And notice that we shoot right through, pull back. This is your first clue. This one, so you kind of scratch your head and go, maybe we're going to get back in the range, or maybe we're going to go higher. But then it pushes through and comes back and tests it. I even like going short right there because of that possible trend line. And look at it go. But then we're coming up. We get the break. We make a push higher. I don't think you want to go long right into that high with a break there. It's tempting, but I think you better wait. And you don't want to go short up here yet because you're just kind of running sideways again. And I don't like going short until you get that failed second entry long right there that breaks higher and turns. It goes right out the bottom. That's a trap. So I like going short there. You would have gone short right there on a stop, and there was just enough to get out of that trade. And then it just kind of goes sideways. So you just kind of sit this out. I wouldn't do anything until you get a trap. And then notice what happens. There's a line right across there. That's your resistance. Notice how we're bouncing off that line and everything's closing below it. And we kind of break higher there. We pull back. We break higher and try to go long again. And it turns down instantly and goes out the other side. That's a sure sign that they trapped people. And there's enough room to get out before you get back down to the low side of this thing. And so just go short right there. And you don't know that the bottom's going to fall out of it like that. But if you're just following the rules and taking the traps, we're just hoping it goes to here and we get a scalp. But look at this thing. If you caught this one trade, it falls from 228 all the way down to 215. So about 13 points in just a short period of time, maybe 15 or 20 minutes. Started around noon, and by 12:30, you'd made a new low. So 20 to 30 minutes there, you got a huge move down. And there's really no other way to get in this. It's tempting to get in here, but you're right into that support. So I don't like going short there. You do get a second entry short here, and let me show you this one. This one is a little bit interesting. It looks like it's going to be a failed second entry short that goes higher, but anybody that's pretty smart knows that that's congestion, so you don't want to enter out of congestion counter trend, and you don't really want to go short there that close to the low, so just sit tight. And it turns out that it's a failed second entry long, and so the trap is really to the long side. And a bunch of people probably thought, hey, there's a short trap there. But if you're paying attention to that trend line, a move that strong, it's not going to reverse on a dime unless there's some kind of news item or something crazy going on. So don't get too eager to enter until you get a retest of that low, because we're going to probably make a lower low than that. Generally, you would expect it to come back a little closer to the EMA, but it was still weak. And so when it broke high, I don't like going short right there, but when it broke higher, it turned and went out the low side all in one bar. You might want to put a limit order in there and get back in a little higher just to make sure you got room to get out. But that's a nice trap right there. And you can see that it was a trap the way it shot down. And then you get these matching lows here, and it breaks lower and turns up. It's not a great signal bar, but being that way far away from the EMA, and after that moving that far, if you want to be aggressive, this is where you probably want to do it, because we're probably going to snap back to that EMA right there. It's aggressive. I'm not going to give it a blue, even though sometimes when you catch these, they turn out to be really good. In this case, they did come back. Notice how they came back just enough to get all the break-even stops, and then it takes off. And this market is so efficient. You'll see it do that over and over. And it's uncanny how it'll come back, and it'll try to get the ones that are doing their break-even stops and their runners and stuff. These are the kind you hope to catch with a runner, but a lot of times this one looked like we were probably going to catch it and take off, and instead they come back right here and get it, and then it takes off. And that's why I like entering there, to be honest with you. But notice what happens here. First entry, pull back, second entry. And it's real tempting to go short right there. And all they did was trap people to the short side, and then took it higher, and then ran their stops that way, and then let it go lower to come back and get these break-even stops. But that's a failed second entry short. It bounces right off, and you got that trend line. You kind of got stacked up there. It bounces off that trend line. It confirms it. You get the trap. Just go long right there. You probably won't, it's getting back close to the top of this little trend channel. So you might use a limit order there. See if it'll back up. You didn't have this line across here yet. You didn't get that until you had the double top, and then it bounced off of it a few other times. So you could have just used a stop there, but I like trying to get a tick or so back just to make sure. And you could have got filled on that one a tick or so back, and then it turns down and you get the break. And notice how it's kind of stacking up there. Oops. And you get the close outside, the pull back, and notice how it breaks lower and reverses. And that's, even though it looks kind of like a doji, it closes almost a tick or two off. It's a bullish bar. I like going long there because we're probably going to retest this high right here. and you get a quick, easy scalp, and then you get another failed second entry short. I didn't like going long here because we have a double top in place, but going long, you got to get long right into that resistance across there. And so you're better off to wait on a breakout pullback long, which comes over here. Notice how it went higher, pulls back, tests that, and then goes higher. I would have liked this better if it would have broke out the top at the same time. Um, but the fact that we've got um, that many attempts to go lower, and now it's kind of acting as support up here, 3 bars in a row. If it breaks higher right here, at this point, it's probably going higher. You don't know that it's going to shoot off like that. But the longs or the shorts were probably stacking up in here thinking, hey, we're going to get another leg down like this, and they don't understand the price action and what it's telling them. They're not drawing these trend lines, and they're not drawing their support and resistance and things, and they're all loading up trying to get short, and then it runs on them, and look at it. That's a sure sign that they were hitting buy stops all up through there. And then that got you into the 2 o'clock hour, and I didn't mark anything else after that. But notice what happened. You had the break, a new high, and then you're working down. And this looks like kind of a spike in channel right here. And you can see that it's just a real clear channel working down now. And if it wasn't 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you know, there's some other nice trades in there. So draw these short-term trend lines. I'm just going to tell you, they really change everything. They really help you. And if you saw this bigger trend line, you could have gone short right here, at least on my chart. Let me back that out and just show you that real quick. Oops. The wrong button there. But notice how it touches that trend line and turns down. And if you got a nice setup there, and you did see this trend line, possible trend line, and that did confirm it too. So I'd be okay with you going short right there. If you saw that other stuff. So you still had what you needed because you had this trend line, this trend channel here, and a break and a couple legs up to a new high, and you're getting away from the EMA there, so you figure it's going to snap back. You don't know that it's going to run straight down like that, but it does. You can see that little channel. You get a close outside, a move to a new low, and it's going the other way. So good trading day, good many trades. It got a little iffy in here, and you had to be a little patient in here. There's always, and really you had to be real patient up here. I mean, once you get into this stuff, just sit tight and wait on the trap, or, you know, wait on it to prove itself. If you didn't catch the trap up here, you really don't get a chance to get in this. And that's the way the market is. It punishes you for being too conservative at times, and then it'll punish you for being too aggressive as well. So you just gotta be patient, follow the market. And here's another thing. There's a good clue here that this is the right place for your midline. Look at that gap right there. That line runs right through it, and look how prices are closing on both sides. That's telling you something's coming through there. And you could draw that line before 8 o'clock. And then if you just drag it to the top, you really didn't need it because you had this resistance across here, but when it started turning down here, and so there's way, as you get better at this, you can find these trend lines before you ever even get your highs up here sometimes. So, people, not everybody knows that. A lot of times you can get your trend line off the low and then drag it up, and you'll know exactly where to expect it to probably turn down again, or vice versa. You're taking it off the highs going up and drag it down, you'll know right where it turns up again. So this stuff works. And then you knew, you had a good idea where, once we broke lower, where this was headed down here because of the measured move. You could have measured it from here to here and brought it over, and then you measured from here to here, and they both match. That's a good clue that that's probably where we're headed right there. And that's exactly where we went to the tick. So, you can't trade off that alone. All that is that's a good clue to kind of help you stay in your trade longer, when it starts heading lower there. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. And for now, I'm out of here. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.